Alfred Stevens, the painter. Alfred's father George was a painter, decorator and joiner, and lived in the building we know as the cycle shop. He was also a sign painter, sometimes producing heraldic work for townspeople and for local gentry, whose grander houses he worked in. Young Alfred became his apprentice at the age of 11 and is said to have never been to school in Blandford, as there was no free schooling at that date. He may have learnt to love pencil, ink, paint and the act of drawing from helping his father with his heraldic work. Many of Stevens's portraits hang in the Tate Gallery, and one is an accomplished self-portrait he painted in 1832 at the age of 14, a year after he hurled a rock at a dragoon and knocked him off his horse during the Blandford riots. The Tate also has a portrait of Samuel Pegler, who had a gunsmith and watchmaker's shop in Salisbury Street. It was painted when Alfred was still only 14, and Pegler subsequently became Alfred's sponsor. Around the same time, Blandford's vicar, George Chard, introduced Alfred to the Honourable and Reverend Samuel Best of Abbots Ann near Andover. Best was evidently impressed by Alfred's talent and became his patron, paying for the 15-year-old to go to Italy, where for 9 years he studied classical and Renaissance art. At the bottom of this glass case is a biography of Stevens, and the first shelf up holds the artist's palette with paint still on it. In front stands a wooden mallet that the artist used for sculpture. Stevens, the designer. Stevens' festoon fireplace is cast iron and was produced in 1860 by the Coalbrookdale Iron Company in Shropshire. Michelangelesque is a word associated with Stevens' work and fits his Renaissance-inspired design for the fireplace surround. The top frieze has a central figure, classically draped and reclining on the left arm, the right arm cradling a swag of plumage-like laurel leaves, which hang from ribbon bows to left and right. The figure lies among oversized flowers and fruit, with its left knee bent and left foot tucked under the right, which emerges to rest on the iron moulding. From the top left corner, the swag crosses inwards in a loop of acanthus leaves and berries to tumble downwards against the inner moulding, while soft-petalled flowers curl away to meet the outer. Below these, 2 perched birds seem ready to take flight, looking inwards towards the fire. Then the swag descends in a series of rounded pedestals with stylized laurel leaves, and the ribbon falls from another bow and loops its way to the bottom plinth, where it curls out through a looped scroll enclosing fruits. Other Coalbrookdale fire surrounds contain symmetrical and stylized garlands, where each side mirrors the other, but Stevens' playful design varies every element throughout the piece, and the right side is different from the left. The ribbons and loop of acanthus in the right corner are subtly different from the left corner. Where the left side has 2 birds together, the right side splits them up, having one bird in the top right of the frieze, peering out at the viewer from behind the acanthus loop. The second bird is further down on the right side and presents its wings and tail to the viewer, looking towards the outer moulding. In the frieze across the top, nothing has a duplicate, so every bow, ribbon and garland around the central figure is different because Stevens cleverly used naturalistic Renaissance forms to behave in an even more natural way. Stevens, the sculptor. Back from Italy, Stevens specialised in bronze and metalwork, and with his sculptures acclaimed at the Great Exhibition of 1851, he received a commission a year later. Designer Sidney Smirke had installed a set of railings and gates outside the British Museum that summer, but needed miniature railings outside these to close off land adjoining the pavement. Smirke wanted 25 lions on the 4.5-inch iron posts connecting the small railings, but couldn't work out how to seat a lion on a 4.5-inch square base 1/3 of its height, so he handed the project to Stevens. The animal sits in the pose cats adopt when perching on your fence post, where the body narrows from the shoulders towards the ground and the hind legs squat outside the front ones, its 4 paws neatly planted together. The heraldic name for the pose is a lion sergeant. It is nearly 14 inches high, and Stevens's ingenious design included a square iron base set on the diagonal, and so discreet it is scarcely visible around the lion's paws. On the underside of the hollow base, he cast 2 arrow-shaped lugs, designed for corresponding holes in an iron post the same size as the base, just under 4.5 inches square, exactly 1/3 of the lion's height. The Wellington Monument in St Paul's Cathedral was also designed by Stevens. He began work in 1856, and the project monopolised the rest of his career, for which he was paid a derisory sum and suffered government interference. The monument was designed for the north side of the nave, with space and height around it, but he didn't live to see it there. Instead, it was put into a side chapel, where its effect was lost and its Michelangelesque bronzes hidden from view. Worn out and broke, Alfred Stevens died suddenly in 1875, aged 57, in his studio, and now lies in Highgate Cemetery. In 1895, the miniature railings outside the British Museum were dismantled as the strip of land they protected was needed to widen the pavement, so 8 of the lions were displayed around the British Museum, with the other 17 put into storage. 20 years after his death, 12 of Stevens's lions were installed on railings around his Wellington monument, now in its rightful place.